terms of Everton, Jared Branthwaite is now believed to be open to sign a new contract to remain with the club long term. How much of a positive is that for the club, given how he's progressed over the last couple of years?
Look, it's fantastic. I mean, I'd always hoped that we could hang on to him when the club was in real trouble, and before the takeover happened. But now, obviously, with new owners, there's a great chance that we can actually, negotiate a contract of the scale he'll be looking at. I've said before, I think he'll have to become one of the highest paid players, if not the highest paid player within the club. He is that talented. He is that higher quality. There's rumours of Real Madrid and other clubs coming in for him. I wouldn't be surprised because he is that good. He's a young, talented kid, and he's also got a great head on his shoulders. So look, he's the real deal. For Everton, it would certainly be one of the building blocks. I'd be looking to build the new squad in. I think Moisey would obviously love to have him as part of that squad, moving into the new stadium. So it is great news for Everton, yes.
And then, in terms of board level, Angus Kinnear looks to be closing on a move to Everton as CEO in the summer. Is that a good appointment given his previous experience with Leeds, but also West Ham and Arsenal?
Yeah, look, I know Angus. We've been around the blocks together in the football world as chief execs, and look, I think he's been at Leeds now about 8 years. I think Angus is a very nice guy and also a very safe pair of hands. The issue I would say is going to be his challenge is that there will be from the Friedkin group, the new owners, a relentless pursuit of revenue increases on the club going forward. And I don't know if Angus has had the experience of taking clubs into that new level of revenue generation. You look at his history with Leeds, and he's had about 7 or 8 years of fighting with really some quite strange owners, and also fighting, up and down from the Premier League and relegation, and being in the Championship for a large portion of that. And he's had to, really focus on firefighting rather than actually transforming Leeds' revenues. So I think that's something that they're going to have to look at, and he's going to have to really show that he's got that innovation and that thought process about taking the club up to the next level. Because there's no doubt with the new stadium, etc., the new owners are going to be looking to establish Everton right back at the very top in terms of, I hate to use the word, but brands of football internationally. There's going to have to be a whole international strategy he's going to have to put in place. I don't know if he's been able to do that with Leeds. I certainly hope he has. I wish him all the luck, and I'll do whatever I can to help him. But certainly he's going to have his hands full trying to please the new owners, I think, with that situation.
In terms of the Friedkin group, they are not popular with a certain set of Everton fans, shareholders within the club. They've requested to meet the Friedkin group to discuss matters after there's been fears over a dramatic collapse in the share price. Is that a bad look for the Friedkins on the PR front, or do you think it's understandable they're taking that approach because they are the owners of the club and it's their prerogative?
I think it might have been better for them to have actually had the meeting and at least fronted up and explained their thinking. Look, there is a case definitely in their favour to say, look, this is what it took. Your club was, potentially heading down the drain, and we bailed you out. And there is a cost. Now you've got to think. I mean, although the shareholders have lost value, somewhere from between £3,400 a share down to about £175 a share, obviously a significant drop in value. But most of those fans holding the shares would not have sold them anyway. They wanted that share certificate above the fireplace. And most of them just wanted to be a shareholder in Everton, which they still are. And, who knows? Maybe the value will come back up as we go forward. And Everton will be worth 2, 3, 4 billion pounds in times to come. It's all very possible. But, you've got to think also, the fans have got to realise that as shareholders, Mashiri was the major shareholder, and he took a huge loss. We're into the hundreds of millions that Mashiri took as a loss. And so they've got to look at that and realise they're also shareholders. And my favourite phrase about shareholding has always been that shares can go down as well as plummet. And in this case, I'm afraid that may have been the short-term view anyway. But I think still the Friedkins could have actually had a meeting and explained that and at least got some brownie points for having faced up to it. But I'm sure that maybe they'll rethink that in the days ahead.
Absolutely. And then Everton are obviously set to make the move away from Goodison into the new stadium on Bramley-Moore Dock in the summer. They're believed to be now considering making Goodison the home of the women's team beyond this season. Would that be a good move, do you think, for the club? And do you think it would be also received quite well by the fans?
Look, I think it would be very well received, but look, having been there in charge of Goodison, I know what it takes each year to maintain a safety certificate. I was having to spend £1 million, £2 million a year to keep the ground, still going. The beams were rusting, all sorts of things still were issues, and so there is an upkeep to keep Goodison, available. Now they may close down certain parts of the stadium for smaller crowds. I don't know how it's going to work. It's certainly something that's a great idea, but the practicality of doing that and keeping an old stadium like Goodison open, is something that's quite costly. So look, I'd love to see the reality of it and the actual budgeting of it. It's a very romantic idea, and of course, it's great. Everybody would love to see the grand old lady surviving in some form, and who knows if youth games could be played there as well. But as I say, with my old chief executive's hat on, I'd be looking at the numbers and trying to think, is this really worth it? Because the crowds you're going to be attracting, the revenue isn't going to be such a great situation at the moment. Hopefully, women's football will grow in commercial success, but I've got to say, at present, I'd like to know how those numbers work.